Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the Microsoft Fabric UK user group. I'm your host, Leon Gordon, and I'm here with my co-host, Pragati Jain. Hi, Pragati.
Hey, everyone. Hey, everyone. Hi, Leon. How's things?
Very good, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. Pretty good. Just it's like getting darker early these days. So yeah,
It is. It's
it doesn't
getting...
feel like working hours.
Oh, believe me, I totally agree with you there. It's getting much darker, and it's also getting
Yeah,
much colder. I feel like we always
colder.
have a weather discussion once we
Yeah,
start.
I think that's the beauty of living in UK, right? Weather is something you always discuss here.
Yes, absolutely. And as always, we do want to hear where everybody else is joining us from. So please let us know whereabouts in the world you are joining us from. As always, we have a fantastic session to bring to you today. We have Senior Product Manager from Microsoft, Pawel Potasinski, joining us. And we're going to talk about OneLake in Microsoft Fabric, OneDrive for data. So Pawel, let me welcome you on board. Thank you very much for joining us. And we should have rehearsed your surname prior to coming on screen. It's what we do normally. So you can talk to me about how I got it wrong after the discussion.
That's okay, Leon. And Pragati, thank you very much for inviting me to this meeting.
It's a pleasure, Pavel, to have
the
you.
name in Polish is Paweł. So V in the middle, W, L at the end of the first name, and Potasiński. Again, it's very soft in the middle, but again, it's very hard to pronounce for non-Polish people.
I'm going to be working on it, definitely. Or next time, I'll just hand this over to Pragati for that section.
Oh gosh, I'll be more bad.
Excellent. But no, like I say, we're really honored to have you with us today, and we know that this is a very exciting topic that our user group and community are very keen to hear more about. So I think it's best if we hand over to you and let you get started, if that's okay.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Okay, so let me maybe start again with saying big thank you to Pragati and Leon for inviting me to this user group and to give me this opportunity to present. As Leon mentioned, I'm a senior program manager on the I'm on the Fabric CAT team actually. So customer advisory team at Microsoft, working with some of the biggest customers using our data and AI technologies like Power BI, Synapse, or Fabric. And to give you some overview, this session, the purpose of this session is to give you some overview of what OneLake is in Microsoft Fabric and how organizations and different personas working with analytics can benefit from it. So that's the general purpose. If you want to connect with me, feel free to join my network on LinkedIn or just ping me on Twitter. Happy to take some conversations and some follow up after this session, or any other topic that is related to data and analytics. With that, let me jump into the topic smoothly. Before we go into details on OneLake, let me briefly go through what Fabric is for those of you who may not be that familiar with the product itself. So Fabric is a unified platform that provides everything, at least that's what we think, that organization may need for data analytics, from data integration and data lake to the business user working with Office. It includes several experiences, how we call them, or you can read them as workloads for things like data integration, data engineering, warehousing, data science, real-time analytics, or business intelligence, or even more, because Data Activator is actually about triggering actions from insights. And Fabric is delivered as a single software as a service product that provides automatic integration, optimization, common architecture, which is very much based on what you might see in Power BI. Central management, the same user interface for all roles and workloads of the analytical projects. So just like you may actually use the analogy to Microsoft Office, where Excel and PowerPoint serve for different purposes, but many activities in both of those programs are performed by the user in the same way. For example, spell checking, copying and pasting, text formatting, and other stuff. So we want to have for Fabric, we want to have the same common baseline, common interface, and the ways people work with different experiences, but around data and AI, or data and analytics. So thanks to this, you actually have the easy possibility to move from one experience to another if you know how to work with one of them. So, for example, if you're familiar with Power BI, the user interface will still be familiar, and you will be able to jump pretty much straightforward into any other experience like data factory or data engineering. You will have different items to work with, but still the interface is pretty much the same. And one of the most important things for today's session, every experience or every workload is actually integrated fully and seamlessly with OneLake. So by that, we minimize data management, time and effort, and eliminate data duplication. So to talk about OneLake, I want to start with why. Why did we implement OneLake in Fabric? And first, many of our customers invested in data lakes. They use data lakes to land all data and break down silos by having one central place to store data with simplified management, governance, and data discovery. The other reason why data lakes are broadly used is because storage in clouds became inexpensive, or can be inexpensive. It can be spin up in a seconds and then effectively managed and used. So again, data lakes are broadly adopted. The thing is that getting to desired state in data lakes is not that simple. It's actually quite hard to achieve. So analytics with data lakes is a lot of sharing prior to OneDrive. You have to build file sharing solutions once you create all those storages and folder structures. And services like OneDrive, it's not accident, I'm talking about OneDrive, not OneLake right now, are changing the game by providing software as a service solution for file sharing. So we wanted OneLake in Fabric to be such a game changer for analytics, just as OneDrive was for productivity and business users. So the reality without OneLake is like that. Even though in the cloud you don't have to buy servers, but rather storage accounts, it is complicated to coordinate how different teams work with data in the lake. And when the data mesh or other complex operational model comes into the game, you typically end up with a bunch of data lakes owned and managed by different teams, making data reuse and exchange in the organization a complex task. To give you some closer look on how this may look, let's look at typical approach to how organizations work with data and analytics. So you end up with data silos. Each team or department has their own data lake with common data being copied among different parts of organization. So you have data movement across the whole organization, different copies of the same data, often out of sync. But it's not everything, because most users and applications are not able to access the data in the data lake directly, but they go through some layers, some abstraction layers built on top of data lakes, like data marts, cubes, Power BI, semantic models, you may name them. So the thing is that building those layers requires additional data movement and duplication as well. So we end up with copies not only across the organization, but even across different layers in a single department or single project. But then, when you want to use some data products or some data entities that exist in those top layers or higher layers of the architecture, you create another layer of data movement and copies of the data. So we end up with this kind of matrix of different copies of the same data, often out of sync, and it's really hard to keep up and keep the data management in place. So you end up with data silos, lots of data copies and everything. That's why we introduced OneLake in Microsoft Fabric. OneLake aims to provide you a data lake as a service without you needing to build it yourself. You just like you have OneDrive for all your documents, we want you to have one lake for all your data. So basically, that's why I refer to OneLake as OneDrive for your data in this in the session, in the title of this session. Now let's try to dive into more details of OneLake. But before I go into details, do we have any questions about the purpose of OneLake in Fabric? Probably not.
We don't have any questions coming in at the moment, Pawel.
Feel free to ask questions. I will try to take them up with help of Pragati and Leon during the session. At the end of the session, I will have a couple of minutes to cover your questions as well. Thanks. So first, let's start by to discuss pillars of OneLake. So first, OneLake provides you with a single data lake for the entire organization, and for every Fabric tenant, you will have always exactly one OneLake. So imagine that instead of creating a bunch of data lakes that you needed to do previously, you just create a tenant and you have a single data lake that can be managed, but also where you can distribute ownership of data to different teams and different departments. There is no infrastructure to set up or manage. The concept of a tenant is actually not new, and but it's a unique benefit of software as a service products. It's well known from Power BI. Tenant allows us to automatically provide single management and governance boundary for the entire organization, which is ultimately under control of tenant admin. Tenant admin then sets the initial boundary, and any data which lands in OneLake will automatically take part in out-of-the-box data governance, such as data lineage, protection, certification, catalog integration, etc. And all data is ultimately under control of tenant admin, but different business groups can work independently without going through a central gatekeeper. Because OneLake enables distributed ownership. Another concept that is well known from Power BI is a workspace. So you can distribute ownership through workspaces. Different workspaces can have different owners, and by that you can allow different parts of the organization to work independently while still contributing to the same data lake. Each workspace can have its own administrator, access control, region for capacity and for billing. Creating a workspace is of course a very lightweight process. You just simply click create workspace and you have new workspace. The only point to decide is which capacity will be used for the purpose of the workspace, but I will get to that in a second. Workspace inherits the rules set by the tenant admin, so there is no need to re-implement the same governance or spend time trying to get different resources to talk to each other. And the workspace admins can then have some further control over who can access what in the specific workspaces. Now, you might be thinking that organizations can't have just one data lake because you're in multiple countries, and there may be some requirements that data must reside in those countries. So OneLake covers this, but by spanning the globe as well. You can have different workspaces in different regions. This means that any data in workspaces will also reside in specific countries. And it's up to you how you split your data among different regions. OneLake is built on top of Azure Data Lake Storage Generation 2. Under the covers, it may use multiple storage accounts. So it's not a single storage account, and those multiple storage accounts may reside in different Azure regions. That gives you this option of splitting data among different geographical regions. So OneLake is a kind of virtualization of multiple storage accounts based on Azure Data Lake Storage Generation 2. Now, in OneLake, all data comes as part of Fabric data item. And many Fabric data items are pre-wired to store their data in OneLake using open file formats. Specifically, we standardize on Delta as our primary format for tables. So what is a Fabric data item? If you work with Power BI, you already know, well, actually, I should update this slide after our recent change. You know, previously called data sets, right now semantic models. So semantic model is one of data items that currently can store the data in OneLake. Right? This option actually appeared recently. But there are more items in Fabric than just semantic models. We have warehouses, we have lakehouses, we have KQL databases for observational and real-time analytics. So all those items store data within OneLake. And just imagine that you have different items storing data for purposes of, I would say, different workloads, because with warehouse, you will have T-SQL developers. For lakehouse, you will have data engineers working with Python in the notebooks. And for KQL database, you will have Custo and KQL programmers working with real-time and observational analytics. But all those people will work at the end of the day with a single data lake and standardized data formats. And of course, those data items land in the workspaces. So actually, it is very similar to how M365 stores files in OneDrive folders. So you have workspaces as folders, in fact, for storing files that are behind the scenes represent data items. As I said, we focus on standardizing the open file formats. So we picked data. We picked Delta as the format for tabular data in Fabric. We are not creating a new proprietary file formats for Fabric because proprietary formats creates data silos, and you may consider, vendor lock-in or things like that. So even data warehouse in Fabric stores natively its data in Delta format. And while Fabric data items will standardize on Delta for tabular data, OneLake is still a data lake built on top of ADLS Gen 2, so it will support any file type, structured or unstructured. You can put any files in OneLake, and then do your analytics and standardize on Delta only for tabular formats. Okay, so we wanted to be actually even more, the assumption of OneLake is that we want to be open, not just in the data formats. So Delta is one standardization, but also OneLake supports the same ADLS Gen 2 APIs and SDKs, which means that you can easily integrate OneLake with existing data lake storage based applications, like, for example, Azure Databricks. So if you've been working with Databricks, it's fairly easy to switch to OneLake and collaborate between Databricks and OneLake because it's using the same APIs as data lake storage, right? Now, for these applications, Fabric tenants will appear as one big storage account with different workspaces appearing as different containers or folders. Data will be organized in folders, and the underlying storage is virtualized. So again, you see just one big storage divided into different containers and folders. And OneLake actually ensures that the scale and performance of storage accounts under the hood is appropriate for the scale of your data. Also, we have this concept of domains. So we took the concept of delegating the administrative rights and implementing data mesh pattern even further, we have domains actually introduced in Power BI originally, but they apply to Fabric as well. So imagine that you have business domains or business areas like sales, marketing, and finance, and they are using different workspaces for the purpose of different projects. So what is a domain? Domain is a way of logically grouping together all the data in an organization that is relevant for an area of or field. So you may actually define domain administrators and contributors who can logically group together workspaces under those domains. So we use domains as logical grouping for workspaces. But then you can have another level of delegation for administration over the domains, right? Also, domains can be used to simplify discovery and consumption of data. I will try to show you that later on in the presentation. Okay, so with that, let me jump to the first demo. If there are any questions, it's the right time to ask them. If no, I will just switch to the environment and try to show you how OneLake.
Absolutely, Pal. We do have one question. Pragati, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, that's
true. Yeah, so yeah, the question is coming from Abukari Muhammad. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name there, but yeah, he's asking, like, is there a hands-on training for Fabric?
Yes, there is hands-on training for Fabric, and I will have at the last slide of my presentation giving you some useful links on how to start working with Fabric and how to effectively learn Fabric as well.
Thank you so much, Pawel. So yeah, Abu Khari, I think Pawel will share that in the end of the presentation. Absolutely. So we'll paste the links in the chat for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so I will also try to drop a link to the slide deck, which I probably shared in a PDF format. So no need to make photos of the slides. Absolutely. Okay, let's start with some demo. I will try to make it a bit bigger. Is it okay? Probably yes. So we are in the Fabric portal. The difference between Fabric and Power BI, if you're not familiar with Fabric, is actually here in the bottom left corner of the screen. Instead of just having an empty box here, I have a little Power BI icon, which allows me to switch between experiences. So I can change my role from Power BI developer to, let's say, data engineer quite easily. If you want to enable Fabric in your tenant, in your Power BI tenant, for testing purposes, for example, you just go to admin portal, and there are specific options that enable you that allow you to enable users to create Fabric items and start playing with Fabric. So this one, users can create Fabric items, is one of the options, and also users can try Microsoft Fabric paid features, allows users to start Fabric trial capacities. Just for you to know, those two options may be useful if you want to start with Fabric. There are actually more options about Microsoft Fabric in admin portal, but for now, I think those two are good enough. So let's switch back to my home page. So again, I have this switcher for switching between experiences. There is also a home page for the whole Microsoft Fabric environment, where you can have those tiles representing each of the experiences. I will switch to data engineering, and what I will do as a first step is I will create a workspace. I mentioned that workspaces actually organize the way how you work with OneLake as well. So in this tenant, I already have some workspaces existing. So OneLake exists already for this tenant as well. But in real case, when I have a blank tenant with no workspaces existing, the moment I create the first item that is about to store data is the moment when I actually create OneLake for my tenants, right? Or I start using this OneLake for my tenants. So I will create a workspace and call it demo. And the most important thing here is here in the advanced part of the settings, because you need to set up the license mode for the workspace. And to run Fabric, you need to specify one of the three options. Either trial, 60-day trial, free of charge. You can use it to effectively explore and play with Fabric. Premium capacity known from Power BI, so peak capacities that you may be using with Power BI, or Fabric capacity, so F capacity that you may purchase in Azure or through M365. So again, you have those three choices. The important note here is that premium per user does not guarantee you, that does not allow you to create Fabric specific items. You will be able to play with Power BI items, but not with lake houses or stuff like that. So let me just use the trial capacity for the purpose of my demo, and I'm good to go. I have an empty workspace. Now I will try to create some artifacts, some items that store data in OneLake. And I will start with a lake house. So basically, let me call it demo lake. A lake house is a storage covered by some level of abstraction that allows me to run SQL queries on top of my tabular data stored in the lake. So notice that there are two options or two sections of my lakehouse. The first section is called files. This is my landing zone, or let's say it's unmanaged part of the lakehouse. You can put pretty much everything into this section. So I can store binaries, I can store different file formats, structured, semi-structured, non-structured, pretty much everything, and I can start my analytics right from this section. The other section or the other area of lakehouse is tables, and as you probably imagine, this is for storing tabular data, or data will be represented by tables, just like in a database. So what I will do as a first step, I will upload some data to this files section. Let me create a folder to show you that there is a way to create some structure of folders in the lakehouse. Let me call it payment type, because that will be some of the data that I will be putting into this folder. So I have a folder in the files section, nothing sophisticated. Let me load some data. Let me upload some data to this newly created folder. I have my CSV file. It's good because it's not big, and I can show you the preview of this file quite easily. Not every file can be previewed in the lakehouse view, but CSVs, JSON files, and other popular formats can be previewed using this this lakehouse explorer. But what I'm about to show you is not how to upload the data to OneLake. This would be a good topic for another session. You have lots of ways to upload the data to your OneLake or to your lake houses, like manual upload, pipelines, data flows, other stuff. I will show you just a few possibilities, but because the purpose is to show you how the data is stored in OneLake and how you can effectively act as a data analyst, data engineer, whoever works with data on top of OneLake and its structures. So I have my CSV file in the unmanaged part of the lakehouse. Now I want to make a table to be able to run SQL analytics on top of this file. So let me just right-click on the file and create a new table. For CSV and Parquet files, this option is the easiest one to create a table immediately out of the files. So basically what is right now happening, without my coding or anything like that, there is a Spark job running behind the scenes that takes the CSV file and makes it a table based on the structure of the file. And I should have, when this ends, I should have a table called payment type in my tables section of the lakehouse. Let me refresh. I think it's still going on. This process sometimes takes a minute or two. So again, it's it may happen that you will be able to, if you're a skilled coder, you will be able to quicker create notebook and run a code. But again, this is no code experience of creating tables in OneLake, in Lakehouse. So I just wanted to show you that this actually is possible. In the meantime, while this creation of table is running, I will create another subfolder. Sorry, but not in the payment type, but in the files section, and I will just name it images. So I have my empty folder called images, and I will upload something to this folder as well. Let me just upload one of the images that I have. Where do I have it? In another session folder. Let me just try. Not sure. Let's go to pictures. There are always some pictures there. This is a brilliant picture to load. My anniversary picture. So I will just load the picture, and there you go. You can even preview the images that you load to lake houses as well. And let's see if my table is created. Yes, my table is already created. So now what I'm going to show you is how you can see the content that is stored in OneLake using different tools, right? And actually how you can access things that are stored in OneLake using different tools as well. So let's start with this view. Okay, let me just right click, show more options, and I have to sync from OneLake. So this is actually, well, should I refresh it one more time? Well. Sometimes takes some time to refresh. Anyways, what I'm presenting you right now is the OneLake File Explorer. It's the application that you can install on top of your Windows Explorer. It shows up as, you know, just another part of your file system, but it allows you to connect directly to workspaces that you have existing in your Fabric tenant. So those folders here are workspaces that I have existing in my tenant. And if I look into if I look into one newly created demo workspace, I have the newly created object demo lake lakehouse. You can notice that the first part is the name of the item, the latter one is the type of the item. And if I go deeper, I will see files and tables represented as folders. And if I go to files, you will see both subfolders created by myself existing here. And if I go to images, I will have this image that I uploaded to my OneLake existing as well. So as an end user, I have pretty much the same experience as in OneDrive to explore data that exists in my OneLake. Of course, if I have access to OneLake, that's another topic for discussion. What I can also do is I can go to my pictures, and I can, for example, upload another file. Let me just pick some file that probably will be familiar for you. So we have, for example, fabric icon. This is the one that I will copy. So I can just copy the data, the files from my PC, from my own file system, and paste them into OneLake. And if I go back and revert to my images folder, and I will refresh the view, you can see that I have this newly uploaded file existing, and I can even preview that. So again, between Fabric OneLake and the experience very similar to OneDrive in Windows Explorer, very seamless connection. You can use this OneDrive file explorer to upload the data or to view the data that exists in OneLake. But I will also show you another thing. In tables, I created my first table called payment type. And you can see on your own that it's actually keeping the data in the Delta format. So if you're familiar with Delta stores two things. One is Parquet files, set of Parquet files that store data. The other one is Delta log, which stores the history of modification and points which Parquet files are actually used by the table. So again, you can even view the physical files that exist under the hood behind the scenes for a table. Okay. Now, the other part of the story is that you can use tools that already used to work with data lake storage generation too, like Azure Storage Explorer. Let me show you one thing in my browser. I will switch to another tab, and here I have a Databricks workspace with one of the workbooks open. And I will just show you the code that allows me to work with OneLake. It's fairly easy. Notice that this code of reading data from OneLake has no difference when you compare it to the code that runs on top of data lake storage generation 2. So you just load the data to a data frame just like you normally do it with Spark. And the only difference is here, because as a path, I'm using specific path to my OneLake folder or file. In this case, I took this path, ABFSS path from one of my lake houses specifically. Let me navigate to another workspace called Why I don't see this one? That's interesting. Anyways, so let me maybe show you on my lakehouse. If I go to files or tables, whatever, and I want to point to specific file or folder, for each of those I have options available when I click on the file and select properties. This will present me with the ready-to-use ABFS path that I can simply take and paste into my existing Databricks workbooks, and I can immediately use those files and folders with OneLake. The condition here is that I'm using identity pass-through in Databricks. So you have to be careful about how you set up your clusters, because for the cluster you have to specify that there is this identity pass-through occurring. So I can actually work in the context of my current Entra ID user on top of OneLake. That's the only requirement to go and work with OneLake from Databricks. So you can easily integrate with Databricks. Go. Any questions to this demo? The first one. Oh, I should also mention, if you go to Azure and create capacities that are stored in different regions, just like in the case of those two capacities. The first one is in West US 2 region. The other one is in North Central region of Azure. And you will use those capacities to back different workspaces in Fabric. You will see this geographical dispersion of OneLake. So you will have OneLake that will be actually split among different Azure regions, and that's the case that I have in my tenant. If I go to admin portal and if I go to workspaces, I should be able to see, hopefully not that many workspaces. Let's maybe go to capacities. Sorry, that'll be probably quicker. If I go to capacities, Fabric capacities. You can see that I have this North Central US, for example, and unfortunately I will not show you details, but there is one workspace assigned to this capacity and the other one to West USF2. Right now, both capacities are paused, and that's another great thing about Fabric capacities in Azure. You can pause and resume them. So I cannot access workspaces that are backed by those capacities. But this is just to give you an idea how you can achieve geographical dispersion of OneLake, so you can distribute data in different regions of Azure, having a single data lake virtualized by OneLake. All right, let me go back to the slides, and let's move to the next topic. If there are questions, just shoot and let me know.
That's fine, Pawel. Let's jump in with a couple of questions if we can. So the first question coming in is from Sam KC Blade, and they ask, at what point do you start getting extra charges on the trial version of Fabric?
With trial, you will not get extra charges, right? If your trial expires, so you see countdown coming to 0, you will upgrade to the commercial version of your capacity. Then you will be charged. If you use any commercial capacity, you will be charged, right? And if you ask about charging in general, there are several aspects that you have to consider when talking about pricing for Fabric. Let me maybe write them down. So first is the most obvious. It's capacity. So this is your compute power. You just buy capacity and you pay for capacity in some model, like yearly commitment, for example. Then you have storage. Right now you pay. There are a couple of factors there, but of course the amount of data that you store is the biggest one, right? There is also I'm not sure if it's double G or egress transfer. So whenever you download data from OneLake or move data between different regions, just like in Azure, you are being charged. And another thing to consider is when you play with Power BI items like reports or custom semantic models, you still need Power BI Pro or PPU licenses to deal with those items. Okay, so those are four factors. Actually, we have a pricing page ready for Fabric. So what I would do. I encourage you to go and visit this website. Maybe we can just jump to the browser and quickly find it. All right, so there we go. There's this pricing website. So you can go pick your region, that is your home region for a tenant, for example, and then you will find out how much everything costs, from capacities through OneLake storage, ending up on networking. Network is pretty much straightforward because it's taken from Azure, basically. Okay, but again, here you are not. It's not specified here that you still need Power BI licenses, but it's pretty much the same as for premium capacities. To work with premium capacities, authoring requires either Pro or PPU license, right? Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Pawel. And Pragati, I'll hand over to you for the next question.
Yep. So the next one is from Feraz, and he's asking, is it allowed for me to replace Parquet file in table folder?
Depends on the rights that you have. You probably could replace file in a table. Behind the scenes for a table. So that's why you need to carefully play with who has access to what. In general, the approach would be to provide access to OneLake and file level, let's say file structure level, only to specific people who, let's say, are the most responsible folks working on the project. The other people working with data should have access only to SQL and SQL analytical endpoints. So that's a great point, actually, because again, there are two levels of abstraction. in Fabric. One is this file level that I've been showing you so far, but there is another one. If you go to Lakehouse, you can switch the view from Lakehouse view to SQL Analytics endpoint, and that's how users playing with data should access the data through the virtualization or abstraction layer of SQL endpoint, and not the files themselves. Okay.
Thanks,
actually, I'm a bit back with time, but let me just quickly do some progress. So instead of talking too much on shortcuts and things related to how we get rid of silos, I'll try to switch to demo as quick as possible.
Perfect. Thank you, Pawel.
In general, the thing is, we want people to avoid copying data between different parts of organizations, different workspaces, so different domains, etc. So that's why we came up with the idea of shortcuts that provide connection between different parts of the organization and allow you to avoid data movement, but still using the same copies of data that already exist in your organization, without changing the ownership and everything that is related to where the data is really stored. So let's see how this may look like. So you may treat shortcut as a symbolic link pointing to specific folder or file, and by creating a shortcut, you are not copying data to the item you are working with, for example, a lakehouse, but you may still use data that exists in the organization and is stored, for example, in another item, like a warehouse, for example. So this is pretty much cool stuff, because it means that whenever you know that the data has already been ingested into some OneLake structure, some data item, and you have access to this data item, you can easily use the same data in your own project, in your own data item. So that's how you can consolidate data across workspaces, across different domains. But it's not all, because you can also point to existing data that is stored outside of Fabric. For example, in Azure Data Lake Storage Generation 2 or AWS S3 buckets. We are working right now on making Google Storage available for shortcuts as well. So imagine that you have existing Azure infrastructure. There is an easy way to point to existing storage that already collected some data in Azure to make it available just like it was in OneLake, but without copying this data to OneLake physically. So let me move over to the demo itself. It's much more fun than showing the slides. So let me switch back to the lakehouse view of my newly created lakehouse, and I have this newly created table. And let's imagine that I know that somebody in my organization has already created another set of data that has some data that I can actually combine with this payment type table to get some meaningful results for my analytics. What I can do is I can create a shortcut in my table section that points into another place in my OneLake, the same data lake, another data item. In this case, I will choose this direct lake demo lakehouse, and I will pick some tables. The strip table has 1.5 billion rows, so it's big. Copying this data would take some time. I will also take another table to show you later on some things about security. And let's create it. So I create two shortcuts at the same time, pointing to two different tables from another lakehouse. And that's it, basically. No copy of data. I have my tables ready. What I can do right now, as an analyst or engineer, I can switch to the SQL endpoint, and I can start a new query, which will combine a table that I created myself, payment type, with a table that existed in another lakehouse called trick, but it's accessible just like it was in my lakehouse, and I just run it. Again, 1.5 billion rows stored somewhere else in OneLake, so it takes some time, but I get meaningful results by by combining those two tables residing in two different parts of OneLake. So as you can see, I have aggregated data for different payment types like credit card, cash, etc., from 1.5 billion rows effectively. So that makes really powerful, data sharing among different parts of organizations, because instead of having multiple copies, I just simply create shortcuts pointing to different tables that are created by other people in other lakehouses or warehouses. Also, by switching back to Lakehouse, I can effectively connect to my data that is stored in Azure. So let me just go back. Sorry. Let me just go back and select one of my storage accounts in Azure. If I go to endpoints, the only thing I need really is the primary endpoint for my data lake storage, this one. I can copy that, go back to my lakehouse, and in the files section this time, I will create a new shortcut pointing to external data lake storage generation 2. And the only thing I need to actually provide here are two things. One is, of course, the endpoint, which I'm doing right now. The other one is authentication, which I already provided because I created this connection before. So let me maybe base on this connection created before today's presentation. But it's the same data lake. Again, I'm using external data lake. So I know that this data lake has been used by me and other people on my team to create a bronze layer for my lakehouse. This is actually a container in my data lake. So I create a connection to this bronze container, and it immediately appears available for me for analytics, so I can see that there are some files, some Parquet files stored within this newly connected container. Again, externally stored in Azure, but I connect to this container just like it was in OneLake. That's the beauty of shortcuts and virtualization. Okay, with that, I don't have much time, but let me try to bring another demo on OneSecurity. But before that, let me just discuss briefly OneSecurity, how we call this approach. So in general, we want to provide you with as much centralized security as possible, or let's say one security for all items, whenever possible. So this is possible on OneLake layer, and right now it's not yet as we want it to be. So expect some additional features coming to OneSecurity in the nearest future. If you look at the roadmap, there's quite a few features coming to OneSecurity, but right now we have the following stuff. We have actually automatically provided security on the level of OneLake, let's say workspaces or folders. So you can use several mechanisms to provide security. One is based on workspace access roles like contributor, viewer, etc. The other one is based on the assumption that more granular security should be defined based on specific requirements of different runtimes. For example, if you will be going through warehouses or SQL endpoints, you will be operating with T-SQL permissions granted on top of tables rather than permissions to files and folders. And the same about for example, Power BI semantic models. So in short, you have this first layer of security, which is called OneSecurity, built on top of OneLake in folders and files, but then you have opportunity to define more granular security on top of different runtimes in Fabric. Again, as I said, this is a bit of discussion for the future, but right now you can assign different roles on the level of specific workspace, or then you can operate with more granular permissions for specific data items, which is actually a bit of OneDrive-like experience, sharing experience. So I will show you that in a second in my demo. So now this will be the toughest demo of this presentation. So I have a couple of tables and I have another user which is already logged in. So this is user one. Let me just prove you that this is another user. The set of workspaces is very different from what you have seen so far. So I don't see my demo workspace, for example, here. And I have no access to anything that I created during this presentation. So let me just try to show you security aspects of Fabric. So first of all, if I go to my demo workspace, I have this manage access option, and I can assign people with specific roles: admin, contributor, member, or viewer. The difference is actually only for viewer role. Viewer role will not be able to access physical files, so those folks will not be able to see files in lake houses or things behind the scenes, so Delta files, for example. Other roles will immediately have access to files, so be careful about assigning people with those roles immediately. I will not assign my user one with any of those roles. What I will do instead is I will operate with access that I can control on the level of my data item, which in this case is a lakehouse. So if you go to manage permissions options, you can see that I already have some permissions that are actually taken from my role on the workspace level. But if I want to add additional permissions to other users, I can click Add User, and this looks very much like a sharing experience in OneDrive. You can actually achieve the same by clicking on this lakehouse and choosing Share. The same box appears. So let me go back and manage permissions, add user, and I will add my user one, and I will experiment with different set of permissions. So right now, notice that I didn't select any option here, but I'm granting something. People have read permission. So what the read permission means? Let me try to refresh this window for user one, and let's see how quickly it propagates. maybe I will be able to show you this demo. Yes, demo workspace somehow automatically appears in OneLake Data Hub. It's still not visible in the workspaces list, but I see it in OneLake Data Hub because I have access to the lakehouse and the correlated items. So if I go as a user one to this demo lake, I see nothing. I can't read this lakehouse because I haven't been granted with anything that would allow me to see files and folders. It's good. I can only connect to it. I can even connect to the analytics endpoint. That was the purpose of my read permissions, to allow this user to connect to the lakehouse and its tables using SQL Analytics endpoint. Right now, I see nothing. So now let's go and be more granular. Now I switch to my admin user. I go to the lakehouse, to my lakehouse, and let me create a new SQL query and grant some permissions to user one. I grant select permissions on 2 of my 3 tables to user one. Done. Let me switch back to the user one. Let's refresh this view. If everything goes well, I should see, as a user one, I should see 2 tables, and I can query those tables effectively. So it's good. But now imagine that I want to narrow visibility for this user to only one specific payment type in my big trip table. So for example, imagine that user one is the business owner of the credit card payment type, and he or she needs to only monitor how many trips is actually being paid by credit card. So let's try to narrow those permissions. For that, I will use rollover security. So let me start another query. In this query, I create a schema security, and then I create a predicate function that will check whether a user is called user1, and if so, I will make sure that only payment type key equals 1 will be shown as a data. This function will return 1 only if a user is user1 and payment type key is equal 1, or user is named otherwise. And then the second object is security policy, which is put on top of my trip table, and it will be checking payment type key against the predicate function parameter. So I will be checking just a single column and the username to narrow visibility for user1. You can, of course, parameterize row-level security more. This is very trivial example, but just to give you an overview how you can narrow the visibility. So now, if I go and just copy and paste the same query that I've been using, that I used with my admin account, notice that the difference will be, the difference is here. This user sees nothing beyond credit card, no data for other payment types. So that's how row-level security applies in lakehouses, warehouses, wherever you want to apply it. Of course, there is low-level security in Power BI as well. So just be careful, because you may implement different row-level securities in different places, but that's another part of the story. So with that, I think I will move to the summary of my presentation. I already presented you with OneLake Data Hub. That was the place when my user1 was able to see the shared data item. So I will just skip this. And here's the slide that I promised you to present on the resources. And let me comment how I would start with Fabric if I was newbie user. So first of all, make sure you try Fabric. There's no better way than just get hands-on. 60-day trial for free, no credit card required. Just go and spin it up. If you don't have existing Power BI tenant, visit Power BI documentation. There is a guidance on how you can create a new tenant for Power BI or Fabric purposes. Second, use Microsoft Learn learning paths, again free of charge, to effectively go step by step learn Fabric from the scratches. From concepts to some more detailed features of Fabric. And then, when you become familiar with concepts and naming conventions, I would encourage you to go and take some end-to-end tutorials that we put in documentation, because they will allow you to go and step-by-step implement scenarios like lakehouse, warehouse, data science, or real-time analytics. So with that, I'm happy to take more of your questions if you have any. And I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Pawel. Fantastic session there. And if you can, please share your slides with us following today's session. We will get that out to the audience as well. Now, we do have some questions coming in. I'm aware that we are slightly over, so I'm going to try and highlight a couple of these. No, it's absolutely fine. I think that our community has welcomed the opportunity to see this in real time, for lack of a better term. So let's jump in. So this question from Raj, and Raj asks, can we create a shortcut to ADLS Gen 2 behind a private endpoint?
So right now you probably will not be able to do so, but the private link support is coming to Fabric. If you go to roadmap and see and check for OneLake and admin and governance, or admin and security parts of the roadmap, it's there. I'm not sure if perhaps if you played with some IP whitelisting and things like that, maybe you could somehow work around things, but I would rather recommend to wait for features implemented directly with in Fabric rather than experimenting on your own. So as I said, in terms of One Security, and not everything is in place. We started the product in general availability with the smallest set of available features, but still more to come.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Pawel. Pragati, do you want to come in with another question, please?
Yeah, I think this one that came from Jeremy Nathan. He's asking, does the trial version contain all features of Fabric?
Yes and no. Yes, when it comes to features that are related to experiences. So yes, you will be able to create warehouses, lakehouses, and items that are for Fabric. No, when it comes to co-pilots. Co-pilots are narrowed to only commercial capacities of F64 or bigger, or P1 or bigger for premium capacities.
Thank you. Thanks, Pawel.
Okay, excellent. And let's just have one last question. Let's not get into pricing today. Let me take that one away, actually. Let's go into this question from Ahmed. Can I create a workspace connected to a SaaS software like Salesforce or another platform or another data platform like Snowflake?
That's a good question. I mean, you probably refer to shortcuts to those solutions. So right now we only support when it comes to externals shortcuts or connections. We support as you saw in this presentation, data lake, storage generation 2, and S3 buckets. Google will be the first shortcut options. But in reality, if you want to connect to different data sources, there is a bunch of data ingestion options for you. So you can, for example, use pipelines or data flows generation to access those data sources if you treat Snowflake and Salesforce as data sources. Also, you may be interested in finding more details on mirroring, because for Snowflake we have mirroring in private preview currently. Mirroring is basically a kind of change data capture functionality. So we connect to Snowflake warehouses, or Snowflake databases more than warehouses, and synchronize data between Snowflake database and Fabric warehouse close to real time. So some latency, of course, is there, but again, it's an implementation of change data capture. So we pump the data as it comes to Snowflake. So you may be interested in this one as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Pawel. I think that's all of the questions we have time for today. Just want to say thank you very much for coming and joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you and for the content that you shared.
There's one more thing that I wanted to share with you.
Please do.
Because probably that will be helpful. Just copied this one. There is a GitHub account that I've been running. So I'm not sure why I'm not able to paste it, but so maybe let me just make it bigger.
Maybe you can take the link and put it in the private chat so we can share it in the channels. Basically.
Yeah, let me paste it in the private chat. But github.com/PawelPo/presentations, and then you have this OneLake. The first link in my presentations is basically this one. This is not the first time I present this session, but it evolves, so it's never the same. Every single month I have something else to show. So this is actually this shows how dynamic the product is. So let me paste the link in the private chat, and Pragati and Leon, please share with the audience.
Sure. Thank you so much for that.
So thanks everyone for being with me and spending this time on listening to OneLake feature. I hope you enjoyed this, and you will take some time to experiment with OneLake. And
absolutely. Thank you very much again, Pawel. Pragati, let's go ahead and close today's session. So we'd just like to thank everybody for joining us once again today. I hope you're excited, the opportunity you're getting to hear directly, not only from Microsoft employees, but senior members of the CAT team as well. And we have a lot in store for you as well moving forward, hopefully, which we'll be able to announce over the next coming days and weeks. Hopefully a couple of Christmas treats in there, Pragati.
Yeah, definitely stay tuned, guys. I mean, not just for Christmas. I think obviously we've got a big thing coming up next week, but yeah, definitely in the new year time, stay tuned. We have got some amazing content for you guys directly coming from the Microsoft team. So yeah, definitely.
Fantastic.
Subscribe
Thank you, everyone.
us.
Yes, please,
Thanks,
please,
everyone.
please do. And thank you very much for joining us. As always, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you've been here with us at the Microsoft Fabric UK User Group.